it's not easy because they are human, and at the end of the day, we all are, designed to have regular breaks in between stressful moments, and often leaders aren't able to take care of themselves in the ways that they need to be able to kind of continue in their roles. And just knowing that there are so many things that we can do that can make a really quite significant difference to how we operate and how we feel. So that's really at the core of what I like to share, this hopeful message that better times are ahead, and that, the support is available.
Welcome to Trailblazing Schools, the podcast for educational leaders at the intersection of leadership, complexity, and intelligent technology. I'm Trudy Graham. This is a space for leaders navigating uncharted territory. We explore strategic leadership, ethical innovation, and how AI can strengthen the deeply human work of education. Welcome to the Trailblazing Schools podcast, Dr. Jodi Richardson. It is amazing to have you join me today. Dr. Jodi is the go-to person about anxiety and wellbeing in education. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Trudy. That's a lovely introduction.
Well, I didn't say too much because in the usual way that we start on the Trailblazing Schools podcast, we prompt our favourite AI. So I'm really curious to hear what your favourite AI says about you and how it would introduce you.
Well, I have two favourite AIs actually. And yes, but I asked the one that I connected with first, which is ChatGPT, because it knows me well. And here is what it came up with. Dr. Jodi Richardson is an anxiety, wellbeing and education speaker, author and former secondary teacher who works with school leaders, educators, parents and students across Australia. Known for her warm, practical and science-backed approach, Jodi helps school communities better understand stress, anxiety, wellbeing and the nervous system in a rapidly changing world. She is the best-selling co-author of Anxious Kids, author of Anxious Mums, and host of the award-winning podcast, Well, Hello, Anxiety. Jodi is passionate about helping schools create calm, connected, psychologically safe environments where both staff and students can thrive, not just survive.
Wow. How did that
Pretty
feel
cool, huh?
for you when you read that?
I feel really proud. It's captured me really well. This is the platform that knows me well. And the other one I've started using is Claude, which I'm loving. I thought I would swap, but I'm keeping both. I use both differently, but this one knows me well. And that's at the heart of what I do, Trudy. I've been the anxious kid in school. I am the parent of an anxious kid. I've been the staff member feeling overwhelmed. I've worked with leaders who, were juggling all of the things that they've been juggling in the school, in their roles in schools as a teacher many, many years ago. And now my work is really supporting school communities to really make a difference when it comes to anxious kids and teens and really empowering them to reach their potential and also looking after the people who are doing the teaching and the leading. So it's captured me really beautifully.
Yeah, yes, it has. And Jodi, what I love about what you've just shared is it sounds to me like you took something that others would potentially see as a weakness, and it is your greatest strength.
It really is. It really is. And I mean, I wouldn't have said that at the beginning.
Sure.
It was so hard. I mean, there's been a journey here, but I thrive. Honestly, I thrive with anxiety. I have an anxiety disorder. I'm medicated for it. But really the turning point for me, and I was teaching at the time, Trudy, I was working in a magnificent school, great kids. I was chatting with one of them at the local footy yesterday. Our daughters are playing in the same football team, so I'm still connected. But my mental health started to really go downhill because my anxiety was undiagnosed, and I ended up struggling and being diagnosed with depression. sort of towards the end of my teaching career, only because I left teaching to go and work at Beyond Blue, because I realised I'm learning about my mental health here, and I don't know that I'd ever heard of anxiety or depression before they were part of my kind of experience. And what I learned through those challenges, when everything's stripped back and you don't have your mental health, you realize that nothing else kind of matters in the way that you thought it did. And that was kind of what set me about understanding personally for my own sake in the beginning. Well, if the things I thought contributed to good mental health and well-being aren't the things that have kept me, afloat, I've struggled here, what does? And that's ultimately led me to do the work that I do, because I did the work on myself and then realized, gosh, everybody needs to understand themselves and what they can do, because there's so much that we can do as individuals to make a difference, and for the young people in our world as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So you come at this from experiences in every which way. Your own
I really have.
childhood as a parent, as an educator, as a researcher. Yeah. So I'd love to hear
Oh,
what your AI then said about, as a guest on a podcast about trailblazing and leading in uncharted territories. What's the core
okay.
message from you?
Here's what it said. I think your core message would be something along the lines of this. The future of leadership, particularly in schools, can't just be about pushing harder and expecting people to keep carrying more. Schools are navigating enormous complexity right now. Leaders are under pressure, teachers are stretched, and many young people are struggling with stress and anxiety. Your work seems to centre around the idea that well-being isn't a nice extra in education, it's foundational. The schools that will thrive into the future are the ones that better understand people, how stress, anxiety, relationships, emotions, and the nervous system influence learning, behaviour, connection, and performance. A lot of your work also seems to focus on helping leaders and staff move beyond awareness and understanding into practical action. That is true. I'm known for my practical strategies, helping people build simple practical skills to interrupt overthinking, regulate stress, support clearer decision making, protect capacity, and function well under pressure. Things like protecting thinking time, closing loops quickly, staying predictable, co-regulation, and just knowing that how leaders and teachers show up influences everybody around them, creating psychological safety and calmer school cultures. There's also a strong sense in your work that leadership doesn't have to look hard-edged to be effective. Some of the most impactful leaders are the ones who bring steadiness, clarity, compassion, and calm to uncertain situations.
Wow, what a fit.
That's it.
So how did that resonate for you?
It's nice to read it back, because I'm using AI regularly, daily, and to support me in my work. And it's 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 hard sometimes to clearly articulate exactly what you do and how you do it. And so I've been asked many times on a podcast like this to, or the classic, you're at a lovely dinner and someone says, "So what do you do?" And it is sometimes hard to articulate it. So being able to put it into AI and have this feedback, and for it to, I've been using this for a long time, so it knows me very, very well. And it's really good because it's captured the work that I do in education is really interrelated, in that the way adults show up and feel, and how they feel and function, which is really my definition of well-being and not just mine, influences how young people feel in their classes and how they can settle into their learning. And so looking after the staff and really sort of sewing into them and supporting them and equipping them to take really good care of themselves is what's part of this picture. And the other part is, how can they really support and empower and re-engage students in their classroom who might be struggling with anxiety. So I think it's captured both of those, which is hard for me to sometimes articulate on my own.
Yeah, it certainly has done that. And I was really curious too, because one of the things around how I talk about trailblazing is, taking the next steps even when it's uncertain, when it's unknown, and our
Yeah,
future is so unknown and turbulent. It feels that way right now.
yeah,
Um, and in amongst all of this complexity and pressure and change, school leaders need to show up for their school
mm,
communities and be seen to be confident and clear uh, in their leadership work, and that's what I see school leaders struggling with. They is the complexity, is not having clarity, is dealing with the uncertainty, which is your wheelhouse, right?
yeah,
And all of the implications and the impacts of that for the human in the systems.
yeah.
Mm,
And what you've just said is it's so powerful because these are people. These are humans who are facing so many challenges. I mean, I was when I was teaching at the Peninsula School, which is now Peninsula Grammar here in Victoria, we had an we had a very, very tragic accident, Trudy, where unfortunately 3 of our students died in a car accident and 5 of the students were in the car at the same time. And I was a staff member at the time, and I was on LinkedIn the other day and I saw that a leader in a school had shared that they had had a death in the school community. And I mean, I shared, you know, um, with that leader, some support, but just the breadth and depth of the challenges that leaders are facing in schools, unless you're in education, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it what they're trying to handle. And like you said, to show up when things are uncertain and to be consistent and to, set the tone for the school. It's not easy because they are human. And at the end of the day, we all are, designed to have regular breaks in between stressful moments. And often leaders aren't able to take care of themselves in the ways that they need to be able to kind of continue in their roles.
yeah. So, Dr. Jodi, was there a particular thing that you've noticed in leaders, or was there something else that you became aware of that made you feel something needed to change that's informed your work?
Yeah, definitely. When I started my work, I was really focused on student anxiety, and that's still a core part of my work. And it became clear quickly that without capacity, we are biologically equipped to cope with stress, just not chronic stress. And as I would speak to leaders who would be bringing me in to speak to their staff, as I would speak to the staff about what challenges that they're facing, I realized that without well-being, without flourishing mental health and well-being, it's really hard to ask staff to be able to support young people who are anxious in the class in the way that they need to, because showing the way you show up, even though we can put on that neutral face or that pleasant face, which I've said in my home before sometimes, with the kids, like, okay, there's something going on, just kind of like pretend that you're coping with this. But through our body language as educators, through our posture, through our tone of voice, through the prosody in our voice, through just the eye contact and the way we greet and connect with students, all of that, as we know, has a powerful impact on learning outcomes. Teachers that are liked and that students connect with are more effective. And when teachers are struggling, and teachers who are struggling and who are feeling really overwhelmed, um, they they need help. And so it's a twofold approach. The teachers need the support and skills to be able to close the stress loop, reset and recalibrate in immediate ways, but also finding a little bit more space in the day, which I talk about punctuating the day. Um, and then they're able to better support the students just through the way that they are, as well as through what they know about supporting anxious kids. So that was kind of quite the turning point for me, where I realised this work needs to be about the whole school community, not just empowering teachers to better understand anxiety and what can help re-engage students in the classroom.
Yeah. Across this podcast, you'll hear leaders navigating complexity with courage and clarity. If you'd like to see how that looks in practice, visit trailblazingschools.com/field notes. These field notes capture real stories from school leaders using AI as a thinking partner, strengthening leadership, not replacing it. It's free, practical, and designed to prompt your own next step. You'll find it at trailblazingschools.com/field notes. So was there a particular moment when your thinking really shifted?
No, there wasn't a particular moment. It was an understanding that evolved as I started to do the work with teachers around students. I just realised I need to expand what it is that I'm doing to support school communities. It wasn't one moment in particular, but the work that I do has really been reinforced by the data that shows the challenges that teachers are facing and that school leaders are facing, challenges with parents, sleep, stress, burnout, overwhelm, the mental health and wellbeing of staff as well as students, and all of the logistics of running a school as well. And so my work has, in the last sort of 12 to 18 months, evolved into also supporting leaders specifically. And so I can work with leadership groups of principals and school leaders, as well as leaders who are in the room when the staff are
Yeah.
being supported. And so it's just evolved as the needs have sort of become really apparent to me.
Yeah. And I think about the research that, started in 2011 with the Principal Occupational Health and Wellbeing Survey. And over all these years, it's got worse. It hasn't got better for more than a decade that we've known the issue. And for all of system responses to try and address it, it hasn't been effective to date. Yeah. And I'm talking, of course, about the impact on school leaders as they deal with sheer volume of work, mental health issues with their staff and students. They're all impacting, and the research shows that. So, Dr.
Yes.
Jodi, is there a core idea at the heart of your work?
There really is. And that is that anxiety is treatable. It is manageable. It is a really overwhelming challenge for anyone who's been through it or is experiencing it. But it's a hopeful message that it's not something that, and I mean, obviously I've had my own experience with my journey, but I've seen it time and time again in schools. And often what I find is I'm sharing with a group of staff to really support young people and to give them really practical ways to make a difference. For example, a child that's overthinking or a staff member that's overthinking is not going to really have a good circuit break opportunity to reset and recalibrate by going for a walk to get a drink of water, because it's not interrupting the thinking that is causing the anxiety and is at the heart of it. And so at the heart and the core of my work is that anxiety is treatable when you've got the right understanding of what makes a difference and when, but also that the skills of well-being, feeling good and functioning well, are learnable. And whilst it can feel really overwhelming if you're a staff member or a student, it can feel really difficult, can feel really overwhelming as to kind of where to turn, where to go to get help, and what will make a really meaningful difference. So I always like to share with people that there is so much that can be done, and that when it comes to our mental health and well-being, we do know intellectually that it is really important, but coming from when I share in my messaging that I've had that lived experience of being without it, really being stripped right back from my mental health and well-being, And just knowing that there are so many things that we can do that can make a really quite significant difference to how we operate and how we feel. So that's really at the core of what I like to share, this hopeful message that better times are ahead,
Mhm.
and that, the support is available.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how do you see this play out in day-to-day leadership and teaching?
Well, one of the things I know from having walked in those shoes is that you can go through the day without stopping. It can be difficult sometimes to be able to get a glass of water, have a hot cuppa, or even go to the toilet. And that is not the way that we need to be operating. It's not what's healthy for us. It's not what's sustainable for us as humans. And so the way I see it play out and what I love to talk to staff about is, how are you punctuating your day? And I don't know, Trudy, I wish I could remember the title, but I read a book recently. I love reading fiction before bed. And literally, this particular author had decided to write about a character in their book with no punctuation. And I think it was to speak to the speed at which this character operated and just the messiness of this character's life. But I couldn't continue the book because it was just hard work. I was just so frustrated with this author. I'm like, I cannot finish your book. And if you think about a day with no punctuation, I'm talking commas, full stops, and paragraphs, then it's quite overwhelming. It's exhausting, and it's really hard to function well. And so the way I see these kinds of messages play out is finding ways to punctuate, whether that's a comma here or a full stop there or a paragraph at the end of the day. They're the ways that I think are manageable without feeling like another thing to do. There are ideas that can work quite quickly and that can just help to kind of reset, close the stress cycle, and keep kind of reducing that load, bringing that heart rate back down, bringing the nervous system back into a state where a person can feel better in themselves, function better, and connect with their colleagues and with the students around them. So that's how I kind of help it to flow into the school, because it's not sustainable to operate without punctuation. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that in the challenges that so many staff are facing, and in the rates of burnout and intention to or leaving the profession as well.
Yes, yes. I love that idea of putting
Mm.
punctuation in your day. That is very practical, very workable. See, now I'm
Mm.
like, okay, tell me more. And you probably say, yeah, that's a whole staff session. But when you said at the start about practical solutions, that right there, just that little analogy is so very useful to think about, isn't it? Do you get
Mm.
that feedback from others?
Yeah. Oh, I do. I do. I really do. I think when you're coming into schools, if you've been in a school environment, I spent years teaching, and I I understand sometimes there are good intentions about what's ideal, and sometimes there are strategies that are actually usable. And depending on the day, we can have the ideal, the picture perfect. Other days we need to be really realistic about, okay, what does this look like to actually kind of interrupt this stress loop
Mm,
and reset the nervous system. And the science shows some really powerful ways to accomplish that quickly. And once you've got just a few of these strategies under your belt, then you can reflect. Also, knowing I need to punctuate my day alone. Teachers are already fantastic and have a lot of ideas that they know make a difference for them as well. But it's just knowing the importance of resets. Also, we need the paragraph breaks. We need the more rejuvenating recovery strategies. But just to go through a day and recognize that a small, tiny reset regularly, consistently, is actually going to make a difference. not to disregard a strategy because you don't have 20 minutes to put it into place. You need literally 1 minute or 30 seconds for
Yes.
some of them.
Yes.
And so just remember to punctuate your day. That alone can be really great for a staff member to say, or a leader to say, okay, I know that I just need to stop every now and again just for a breath.
Yeah. And do it. Jodi,
Yes.
what's become more important for leaders and, if you like, teachers as technology accelerates?
Oh, goodness. You know what? It is embrace AI, learn how to use it. And what I think in terms of technology in education, Trudy, is exactly what you are doing, helping educators and leaders to be able to find out all of the ways that they can use it to reduce the cognitive load in the day, to create more space in the day, to get tasks done more quickly, more efficiently, and to be able to create more space in the day to be used however the educator and the leader wants to use it. I would never be prescriptive about that, but this technology is extraordinary. Knowing how to get the most out of it and use it to our advantage, because we are humans in schools and will never be replaced. But humans in schools that can embrace technology and use it wisely and well will be able to teach and function and lead and recover with more space and more
Mm,
time. And that's really what I think is really important with this technology and these changes.
yeah. Reclaim time for work
Yeah.
that rewards them and fills their bucket, right? The purposeful stuff rather than the administrative stuff that can really drag you down.
And the thing, what you've just emphasized there is so important because we've all, no, I shouldn't say we've all, many of us have embraced technology and we're just accomplishing more in the day. We are getting things done sooner. And so we're saying, what else can I do? Rather than I've I've managed to accomplish this sooner. How can I spend that time to take care of me? And I have a quote I love, which is how we spend our days is how we spend our lives. And it's an Annie Dillard quote. And I love for staff in education to really be reminded that day to day to day is how this life of ours unfolds. And I know when I was in education, I would think about at the end of the day or at the weekend or at the school holidays. And so, that's natural for us to do that, of course, because we really earn those breaks. But I think you're right, just reclaiming that time and spending it on yourself and thinking about the things that you might normally do when you're on holidays that you read, spending a little bit of time reading a book, taking an extra long walk, just sitting and relaxing in the sun with a hot cup or not doing something. There are so many ways that we can spend a little bit of extra time that are really good for us and help us to enrich our lives and our well-being. So that's part of my hope. And I'm sending this message to myself as well because it's really, really important.
Yeah. Now, with that, this next question might be redundant, but what do you hope school leaders feel after engaging with your work?
Oh, really empowered and hopeful. They are two things that I love to leave people feeling hopeful in that I feel better equipped that I can make positive change and empowered to know what I can use to affect that change that's going to work for me as an individual. Because what works for me might be a little different to what works for you, Trudy. And so having just the framework of punctuation, a couple more tools in their toolkit, more than a couple, but just some ways to approach the day that can really not only reset in those brief opportunities, but help them come back. I have a particular framework that I love to share that really helps leaders to come back to what is cope with what's happening when things feel overwhelming, but come back to what's really important to do next. And so, yeah, empowered and hopeful is, yeah, they're the two things that I'd love for people to walk away with once we've worked together, definitely.
Yeah. So as we close, what would you want a leader to remember when things feel overwhelming?
Focus on what you can control.
Ah,
When things feel overwhelming, often some of it is outside of the realm of your control in that moment. You might be waiting on something from somebody else. There might be a system challenge that is where the cogs are turning, but they're turning slowly. And so, one of the greatest things I think any of us can do is when things feel really overwhelming, is in this moment, what is in my control? And once we've been able to think about what that is, a lot of the other contributors to that overwhelm can fall away for a moment. And it's about popping your attention on that thing that is in your control in that moment, which gives you that sense of agency and effectiveness. So that would be one thing I would share.
yeah, and it works. I love it.
Mm,
Might have
yeah.
suggested that to many principals I work with. Because we try to take it
Yeah,
all on and we can't, and that's, yeah, where we get stuck. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
So, Dr. Jodi,
Mm.
I think you know that we wrap up with 3 ritual questions. Are
Yeah,
you okay to answer these for us?
I am.
Okay, so
I
what is
am.
the best kept secret about where you are?
You know, when I saw that you were going to ask this, I'm like, do I want to share this? And absolutely, I do, because if you get a chance to make your way down to Mount Eliza to Canadian Bay Beach, it is just a beautiful place for a wonderful reset. It is gorgeous, Trudy. Have you ever been down
Oh,
this way? No. So in Mount Eliza, which is actually where they're filming The Block at the moment, so I think people are going to learn more about this beautiful suburb. But the beach down there is gorgeous because it's a very shallow kind of long walk out for depth. So it's wonderful for families. There's a big yacht club which brings in a lot of shade. You can kind of hop under when the tide goes out. Kids can have a look around the pylons of the yacht club, and the water's clean and clear, and it's family friendly, and it's just divine. So Canadian Bay Beach, I would say, would be a beautiful place to come and visit down this way.
it sounds glorious, and now it's not a secret.
I know, right? I know, right?
Jodi, what's a book or film that you'd recommend, and why does it matter to you?
Oh, look, Trudy, I've grabbed this book off my bookshelf. It's Man's Search for Meaning. Have you read
Ah,
it?
no, but it's referenced so many times, right?
I imagine. Viktor Frankl wrote it, and at the heart of the book is he who has a why can bear almost any how. It speaks to values and purpose and hard times and refocusing on what really matters. Values is something that's really important to me. And of course, you know, to all of us, it's what is important to us. They are our values. And so it's not a long read. It speaks about his time in a concentration camp. As you can see, it's quite a thin book. It's a small book, but it is one of the most, like, what does it say, 12 million copies sold. I'm sure that that's an
Yes.
older copy. So yeah, Man's Search for Meaning is a book that I could not recommend more highly.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jodi. It's not one I have, but I will put that on my list. And like I said, I've read it referenced by others, so often.
Mm.
Now I'm curious about this next one. What's something that brings you comfort or joy at the end of a long week?
Do you know what? We make homemade pizzas every Friday night. And if I can have a walk with my husband after work and sit down with the family, which is a bit less often these days with an 18 and a 16-year-old, or even if it's just Peter and myself sitting down to homemade pizza, then yeah, that brings me great comfort and joy. yummy food and good catch up. And maybe a little sit on the couch and a little bit of Netflix can, be a nice way to wind up on a Friday night as well.
Oh, that sounds great. So good. Now,
Yes.
Dr. Jodi, if
Yeah.
there are people, school leaders, principals who want to reach out to you, where can they get in touch with you?
Oh, thanks, Judy. My website is drjodirichardson.com, Jody with an I, so just DRJODI Richardson, or connect on LinkedIn. Either of those places I spend quite a bit of time. Mhm.
Fantastic. Thank you. And thanks for joining me for this conversation. It's been really, well, I think valuable from what I know from my own leadership experience and in working with other school
Mm.
leaders. As I said earlier, I quoted the research, but it's the lived experience, right, of school leaders and educators everywhere. And the more well equipped we are, the better. So thank you for sharing your work with us.
Mm. Oh, it's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You've been listening to Trailblazing Schools with me, Trudy Graham. If this episode brought someone to mind, share it with them. You'll find further reflections, practical resources and leadership tools in the show notes. Until next time, lead with courage, seek clarity and keep trailblazing.